What's up YouTube? Kane here again. I'm going to actually show you a video on how I leveled my Death Bills character and how I would level a lot of different spell characters, and also I will be putting up some videos on how to level each different class versus like say melee, marauder versus duelist, ranger, shadow, etc. And I wanted to put up a video for each one of them because I know a lot of people ask these questions: how do I level up fast? I did this character in about 5.5 hours, probably closer to 5 because there was some trading and stuff going on. If you were to just run right through the game, it would be even faster than that. So I'll show you the items that I used and how I did it. So I started as a witch, and I'm just going to go over the tree real quick. Basically, I went through the spell damage into the increased cast speed, and then I actually prefer to level my spellcasters as ED Contagion. You can level them any way you want. You can do Freeze Pulse, get some gems, or some jewels, I mean, for the Freeze Pulse. You can do Frost Bolt, get some jewels for that. You can, do EK. I think Blade Vortex right now would be very strong as well. It's completely up to you which option you would like to do. I went for ED Contagion because I was going to be a Chaos character anyways. And what I did is I went across the life nodes here, ran through to Written Blood, grabbed the chaos damage, grabbed more chaos damage, came down here into coordination, literally as you see it, and then up through the health nodes. All you're going to do is basically grab all the health nodes you can. You're going to want to be hybrid for this build. It will make your life a lot easier. I went um, down towards uh, Harrier, excuse me, and grabbed the hired killer nodes. I went over here and grabbed quick recovery, and now here's where you have different options. You can go into the Templar tree, discipline and training, and you're obviously going to respec a lot of this stuff. You can go up to cruel preparation as well if you like for some more life. Well, you can also go mind over matter, and I'll show you how you can do all these different things. So for in ED builds, you're going to use Tabula Rasa, you're going to do void manipulation, control destruction, swift affliction, efficacy. Pronounce that right again. Sorry. Um, ED, and then if you're using a tabula rasa, you can hit the 6 link. If you're not, you can use like a 5 link or something like this, which is I like to switch into a 5 link. But you're gonna want to use Pierce is the other link. You will need Pearson. It'll make it a lot more comfortable. So you're gonna take out a damage node if you go down to a 5 link. I like to switch out of the Tabla. This is, for example, one thing that you could easily buy. This is, a couple chaos, and you can use this to be a little bit safer. However, what I did this time around is I used a staff. Of course, I put it over here, right here. Zergal's Crank, I think it's pronounced, and this one is a little bit more expensive if you have extra money, but I bought this, socketed it, or colored it, which took a little bit more than I was hoping. But it gives you 90. It can give you up to 100 maximum energy shield, which is great. Gives you +1 to sockets. It's gonna make you plenty strong enough to do the entire content. Plus, it gives you a little bit faster recharge, and you actually end up having like 30 something block, 35, 40 block on this, um, pretty easily. So you can actually get max block. This is actually an item you can get a 6 link in and use this as an ED contagion build or as a blight build very easily. I believe Pox has a build up for this. If you don't want to go that route, I can show you a slightly cheaper one, which is going to be using 2 Dark Shears. This is going to give you maximum energy shield and maximum life per level, so you can easily be hybrid. You can go into mind over matter using stuff like Azuri's foil and using like dream fragments, which is here as well, and that should give you plenty of regen. That is also another option. Starting out, you're going to want to use a Tabla. You're going to want to use 2 Life Sprigs until you can switch into this. The obvious stuff of Gold Rim is Gold Rim and Wanderlust. You can use... Sorry, I got my stuff kind of mixed up a little bit here. Lacoste, I don't know how to pronounce this. Caress. You can use the Caress for the extra attack speed, movement speed, and the Frenzy charges are nice for the extra damage. And then, like I said, you're going to switch into the Darkshear. The helmet, you can switch into something like this. If you can, find one or afford it. Curry Ward is something you can use quite a long ways into it until you want something that will be, more health or energy shield. Rings, Elrond rings, until once again you either switch into the Dream Fragments and there's a Phobal for the Mind Over Matter, or you can switch into, actual rings, something like this. This is actually for a different character, but this would work. For your flask, you're gonna want at least one granite flask with remove bleeding, so that right when you hit 27 you have that and you don't have to worry about it for the rest of the game. You have the remove bleeding. And then 2 quicksilver flasks, preferably something like this with adrenaline on it, 2 of them. And then 2 life flasks is what I usually run. You're going to want to get yourself a Darkness Enthroned belt, and you're going to want to socket it with 2 life in here. And then depending on what you plan on doing, you can get, extra spell damage while dual wielding type of stuff, or you can just put some resistance on there to make sure your resistance cap and not worry about it. If you're ED to Contagion, you won't need the extra damage. If you're Freeze Pulse or Frostbolt or any of the other spells, you might want the extra damage just to have it, because they're pretty cheap jewels overall. You can switch into a different helmet that I actually like to switch into, which is called Skullhead. This is the one I use on most of my characters. 20 resist to all, plus it gives you life, plus it gives you some other stats. So this is actually the one that I prefer to switch into. Then you're going to want to switch your boots eventually, once again, into life and some resistances. Same thing with gloves. Something like this right here, life resistances. And what I did, since I used the staff, is I actually used a wall of brambles. Now this is a fantastic item to level with when you use the staff, because it pretty much means you don't need to worry about little hits anymore from any mobs. It makes you very, very tanky. So this is a very great item if you decide to use the staff for any spellcaster builds, particularly the ED Contagion. And then lastly, you're going to want to switch into something like Le Hoop of All, I think it's pronounced. And this is great because it gives you tons of resistance, tons of damage. I actually like to use these over the Mind Over Matter build. Lots of extra damage, lots of resistances. They're a little bit more expensive, but it's definitely worth it. Here are the jewel sockets in the Darkness Enthroned that I was talking about. Some life and some extra resistances. Once again, relatively cheap. If you decide to do something like Blade Vortex, there's a lot of different things you can do. I think getting 2 of these paws would actually be the best, um, because of all the life gained on hit from your spells, plus you're going to get some blocks, so some extra, spell damage in there. I think these would work wonders. I think they're underrated, and I think people forget about them. But once again, like I said, you could also do Darkshear, maybe 1 Darkshear, one of those. Lots of different options. And basically, that is how I level up my characters that are spellcasters, and I pretty much level them all the same way, whether they're or Shadow Templar or Witch. There's lots of viable options, but that I think is the best way to do that. After this guide, I'm actually going to put up a guide on how to do a Ranger extremely fast as well. Alright, thanks YouTube.